Hey, hi there, so we're doing to my YouTube channel, CNC Dude here with treasure day number 2. Man, I'm excited. I didn't think this second treasure day was gonna happen so quick. And so quick, still 1 month after treasure day number 1. So it's really not quick at all. But I thought it was gonna weigh much more, maybe 2 or 3 months or maybe like 6 months. And in fact, in this past month, I have been trying to acquire some treasures that I was able to find, but I didn't manage to get. So it's intriguing, but sometimes you actually find the treasure, but somebody bids you to it, or you just don't get it at the auction. I mean, your bid is not good enough at the auction, so just because you find the treasure doesn't mean that you're gonna get it. But today I have one. I am super excited about this puppy that I'm going to show you here. Super amazing stuff, and I think I got it at a good deal. So I'm happy about that. And well, let me just show it to you and let's talk about it. Bam! Treasure day number 2. Oh yes, man, this is awesome. And I'll talk about how much I paid for this later. But I imagine you know what this is, or hopefully you get an idea of what this is as you see this moving. And the top one is not moving. I have to check on what, but this is basically an XY table. Very similar to your typical CNC milling machine, where you have the X and Y are at the bottom and the set comes from top. Of course, you know, this is aluminum, most of it is aluminum, so this is not a rugged as a real cast iron CNC milling machine, but I am positive you could do something very cool with something like this. Now, this guy here and this guy here, they are called IAI actuators, linear actuators, and IAI or IA, I guess what I'm reading here. I thought it was IAI, but maybe at some point in time they would just call IA. Anyway, the IA doesn't stand for industrial automation. It stands for intelligent actuator, and that's basically what they are. They are a bolt screw here, servo motor, BLDC servo motor, so you have chaff encoder to control the speed and the position. And I know it's a BLDC because I already look at the connectors here, and there are 4 wires. Now 4 wires, you may be thinking, oh, it's a stepper. No, it's not a stepper. The green wire is a grounding wire, and the other 3 are the UVW faces. I made that mistake once a long time ago. So just because you see 4 wires doesn't mean you have a stepper. And of course there is some other stuff in here which I don't need, and I'm gonna be taking it apart, but you know, the aluminum may come in handy. But this is a great find, and how much I paid for it, I'm just blown away at the great deal that I found. And actually it took me months to get it because at the beginning it was a little bit too expensive. Now there are a few things that are confusing to me. For example, if you look at this here, there is a pneumatic line going into this side of the actuator. So when I acquired this, at first I was like, man, what have I done? This is a pneumatic actuator, and I am not interested in pneumatic actuators. But as it turns out, I really have to decipher that, because although there is a pneumatic line in here, there is also a BLDC motor here. So I'm not certain if this is an hybrid or what. I've never seen anything like this. So, very intriguing. This has no electronics whatsoever, but that's okay because I like to do my own electronics. There are 2, what do you call this? These are called cable carriers, snake cable carriers. 2 of these, which are very handy. And I paid, before I tell you how much I paid for the whole thing, let me give you a little background on the IA, the intelligent actuator, linear actuators. They're very expensive. The first time I saw this thing, or actually just one of them, it was like 2 or 3 years ago. I met this individual here in Dallas through the Craigslist, and this is a guy that has been collecting a lot of industrial stuff for a very long time, and he was thinking about downsizing his collection and selling a bunch of stuff, and I bought some of his cool stuff. But when I saw the I8s, I was like, man, I want some of that. And he was like, yeah, I will sell some of this to you. But as of today, I don't even know how much he wants to sell them for. And actually, I think, it is my impression, he doesn't want to sell them for. To be honest, I wouldn't want to sell them either, because they are great actuators. So for years, basically every week I would ask, hey man, how much for the actuator, how much for the actuators, until it came to the point where I think I offended him, and I just decided, you know what, I think I've bugged this guy too much. I am just going to stop. And but I really wanted some of these cool actuators, so I started looking on eBay. And that's when I found out that these guys can sell for anywhere in between 500 and 1,000 bucks used, okay? So used. I think they are of Japanese origin, so they are extremely well manufactured. These are not cheapo tools. This is not something you go to Walmart or Target and acquire. This is an industrial thing. So they are. This is a low volume product, extremely well constructed. I'm assuming these things are thousands of dollars. If you go to, if you go to your industrial distributor and say I want an IAI actuator, I'm thinking it's gonna be thousands of dollars. But used, you can see them on eBay for anywhere between $500 and $1,000. If you are lucky, for the small ones, you might see them $200, $300, and sometimes on big lots they may come down to close to $100 bucks, but it's very hard. It's very hard to find something like that. So when I saw this the first time on eBay, I'm thinking it was like $500 or $600 bucks. So I remember it was like too much, and I was like, man, there is no way I'm gonna pay $500 or $600 bucks for something that's just gonna be sitting on my shed, because it's gonna be forever before I can actually do anything with it. I don't have the space to build anything and just have it here on my garage. So most likely it's gonna go on storage. I kept on looking and looking and looking, and it came down. I think at some point in time it was like $400 bucks. And just last week, it made it down to $319. Now at $319, I'm like, whoa, man, that is like so viable. And I basically told me, if it goes below 300, that's it. I'm pulling the trigger. I'm just getting it. There were 11 watchers, so I wasn't the only one looking at the item. And then, I was looking every day, 319, 319, 319, and all of a sudden I forgot to look. And when I look again, it was like 2 days after that, it went down even more. So from 319, it went to something like 279, and by the time I found it, it was 259. So at 259, I'm like, there is no way I'm gonna let this pass. Right there, bam, press buy now. I got it. So 259 for this monstrosity here is a freaking bargain. One actuator alone is more than 259. One, okay? But I'm gonna take it apart, and then I'll show you how it looks without all this cabling and stuff. And I'm also going to try and understand why one of the actuators has both a motor and pneumatic hose. That is very intriguing to me. So I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, as you can see, I have taken most of the assembly apart, and I have been able to decipher why this guy had a pneumatic actuator here. Now I think I understand. Anyway, this thing wasn't moving, it wasn't going anywhere, and then when I removed this guy, it started moving. So right there we can easily decipher that this is a brake. Okay, this is a vertical brake, and most likely this was on a vertical position, So when you're applying your force with the motor, it moves, but to just stop it there will require a ridiculous amount of energy. Basically, you will need to be driving the motor with high current at all times, and that's not good for the motor. So clearly, this actuator here was modified to have a brake, and the brake, it stops the assembly on whichever position it happens to be. Now, here is where I'm a little bit confused. There are two wires in here, and most of the brakes that I have seen, they use either 12 or 24 volts, and you know, when you apply a current, when you apply a voltage, there is a current, it releases the brake. Okay, so basically this guy would be in, it could move as long as there is a current applied to this guy. That's why I couldn't move it, because obviously there was no current. So this guy was shut. That's why you can see I cannot move it now, because this brake is basically on the brake position, and this is going nowhere. It doesn't matter how much force you apply. I mean, you have to apply a huge amount of force to be able to move this guy. So most likely whatever was here, was that assembly, whatever weight or whatever force that was exerting, this brake was capable of stopping it. Remove the brake, and now you can move it. I don't have a means to energize this guy, of course, so I cannot show it to you working with electricity. Now, what is still bugging me is, why was there an air inlet in here? I've never heard of a brake that works with air or electricity. So I'm not ready to say that's what it was. Very weird. Anyway, I'm not gonna need this, so I can remove it. I don't need this stuff. This is most likely gonna be an XY table whenever whenever I decide to do something with it, which may be it may be a decade from now. But this will be an excellent platform. And look at the way this thing is built. I mean, this thing is amazing. It's basically a very nice aluminum extrusion with ball bearings on the sides and a ball screw. This is not a cheap implementation. I have no doubt in my mind that if you're gonna buy this new from the factory, easy, it's gonna be $2,000 or $3,000, easy. At least $2,000. I find very hard to believe it's $1,000. I find it very hard to believe. I could be wrong, I've never checked. But man, I find it very hard to believe this is gonna go for less than $2,000. So to acquire this for less than $130, okay? Basically $259 for the whole thing, and I have a bunch of cable carriers and all sorts of stuff. This was a tremendous bargain at that price. So I am very pleased. Well, that's my treasure number 2. Hopefully you guys like it, and you have been able to learn a little bit about intelligent actuators. I've never seen this before until 2 or 3 years ago. If you find them on eBay at a good price, man, get them. This is probably one of the easiest way to make your own CNC machine. And I mean, this is basically done, right? This thing was already mounted like this, so I don't even have to create that part. Like, if you only buy the 2 actuators, you'll have to still do a little bit of work. But this is basically done. All I have to do is mount some kind of a motor in here, and you know, my table is gonna move like this and like this. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll get to see you on yet another treasure day soon. Have a good one.